When I was a kid, I absolutely loved watching action movies with martial arts stars and ninja masters. If I'm being honest, I still do. I absolutely love and admire the mental and physical control these masters have developed over years of practice and discipline. In many ways, they're just like musicians, especially drummers. I mean, there's a reason it's called martial arts, right? Just like karate students start by mastering a basic framework of moves and strikes, one of the best and most effective ways to learn drumming is by mastering rudiments. And one of the simplest and most useful rudiments is the flam. I'm going to show you two absolute ninja moves that'll make your flams cleaner and more effective so they're easier to use with grooves and fills. Let's get started right now. If you're new to drumming, you might think, what's a rudiment? I mean, I've heard of them, but what actually are they? A rudiment in any discipline is a basic skill building block that's part of a larger skill set that can help you to master that craft earlier. You might think of the rudiments of reading or plumbing, balancing your checkbook, or even driving a car. Drum rudiments are specific sticking patterns and rhythms that have been passed down for at least the last couple of hundred years by drummers in the military, marching and concert bands and orchestras, and for the past 100 years or so by drum set players. The rudiments are the basic building blocks of vocabulary for drummers. While today there are 40 international drum rudiments and countless hybrids, we're going to focus on just one, the humble flam. This is an absolute staple rudiment, very common, and you need it in your ninja arsenal. The flam is made up of two notes. The first is the main note, or a normal stroke. The second one is called a grace note, and it's a very small stroke. The grace note will actually hit the drum slightly ahead of the main stroke, and together they create a sound that has two parts, flam. To play a flam, start with both sticks about 2 to 3 inches over the drum head. And then whichever hand is going to play the main note, you want to raise that up to as loud as you want that stroke to be. In this example, I'm using my right hand. Then, if you just drop both hands without pushing the stick toward the drum head, physics tells us that that grace note, the lower note that didn't move, is going to hit the drum first. So here's the first ninja secret. Keep the grace note low. I tell my students that the grace note should be no more than half the height of the main stroke, and in most cases it's actually quite a bit lower than that. Even if you play a super loud flam, that grace note can be pretty low. It's not actually going to add much volume, it just adds the sound of the flam. And if you're playing a very low or soft flam, that grace note is going to be extremely light. Like a ghost note or even less, you're just going to barely touch the head. One thing I see a lot of younger or inexperienced students do is when they're playing a flam, that grace note comes up really high, almost to the same height as the main stroke. And then what usually happens is that those sticks are going to hit the head at the exact same time. And when they hit at the same time, you get something called a flat flam. If you can imagine two people hitting a trampoline at exactly the same time, it doesn't boost the energy. In fact, it kills the energy of both. So it's going to feel weird on your hands, and it's going to kill off the energy of that snare drum head, and it sounds really, really bad. So to help with this problem, here's my second ninja trick. And it's actually just a mental image. If you've ever watched a rainstorm through a window, you can imagine two droplets of water running toward each other. There's an instant right before they merge into one drop where there's still two distinct drops of water, but they're touching each other. This is exactly how the sound of a flam should be, right next to each other. The sounds touch, but they don't overlap. One more concept that can really open up your playing and make your flam smoother and more musical is the concept of lifting the stick off the drum. When you naturally hit the drum, there's something called rebound. The stick and the head will just bounce that drumstick back toward you, kind of like a basketball off the floor. But when you're playing a really, really small note like the grace note of a flam, there's not a lot of rebound, and so you have to sort of help it. You're going to artificially create some lift. So when you play that tiny stroke, you pull the stick or lift the stick up off the head. That helps get that stick ready for whatever comes next, whether it be an accent or a different flam, whatever it is that you want to play. The only time you wouldn't do this is if something is coming after that flam that needs to keep that grace note low. Say you're going to play a ghost note or another flam with the same sticking. So as you practice your flams, I recommend starting on a practice pad instead of the drum kit. To quote the great drummer Annika Nilles, you'll never be better at your kit than you are at your practice pad. Go slow. Make sure you're precise about your heights. Make those flams feel really, really comfortable. When the flams start to flow smoothly, do not hesitate to apply them to the drum kit. There are so many great ways to put flams into fills, and grooves, and especially solos. And once you've mastered FLAMS, there are a ton of other rudiments, including other FLAM rudiments, that are a blast to play and will really help open up your drumming vocabulary. We'll get into some of those ideas in another video. Until then, keep working on those FLAMS, you ninja master. As always, thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. To play a FLAM, start... I can't talk. It's a proven fact. I can't talk. This is the last one, for sure. Oh, go to do these, right?